Okay, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the PorscheCooled Podcast. Steve is here. Hi, Steve.
Hi, mate. How you going?
I'm all right. We've had a bit of an eventful
Look all
week.
rugged up.
Yeah, it's cold. I actually, believe it or not, our apartment building here the heater is one day it works and one day it doesn't. When I came out here this morning, it was, even though it looks like a nice day in the background, it was freezing. And luckily today the heater worked. Unfortunately, I have to turn it off when we're doing this podcast because you can hear the noise in the background.
Right.
So I've turned it off. But that's why I've got a sweat on.
Don't freeze for the podcast, mate.
That's why I've got a sweat on. I've still got my sleep shorts on underneath. I'm like a newsreader today. I haven't even bothered to get dressed properly. I shouldn't give that away. Steve can see me, but it looks like I'm dressed, but I'm not.
I'm not dressed. This is what I wear to bed, so don't worry about it.
Luckily, we don't put this video up on YouTube. It's not very attractive.
When you originally suggested that we could kind of do it, it's like, I don't think I'm fit for human consumption in that regard.
I haven't been making YouTube videos at the moment. Someone said to me, when am I going to start making more watch videos? And it's like, I mean, the last watch video I did, I didn't put myself on camera. I just thought I'd just do it, incognito style. They seem to do better.
Which one was that? The Explorer?
Yeah, the Explorer 2 one.
Yeah.
But it obviously is not a good trend when I look at my YouTube channel stats and the watch videos are actually performing better than the Porsche videos.
But hasn't that always been the case? Watches are more...
Monetization way, the watch videos earn more money. Watch videos and tech videos actually make more money than Porsche videos. Not that I make, not that I earn a living from YouTube. It's just a small amount just to pay for, things that I buy and stuff. That's how I see it. But that's it. Yeah, so Steve's here. Everyone knows Steve. Steve and his GT3.
Sort of.
I never introduce. I always think everyone that's coming to our podcast has been here before. I know there are new people coming because I get messages from people, Steve, saying they listened to their first episode, and I think they started, I think someone the other day listened to a first episode and it was the 50th anniversary one. So that was the first one they listened to. So people don't necessarily listen.
They say, who the hell are you, ass clowns?
I said, good. I got and I always mention certain people in the podcast, but I got a message from Ajmal at Flat Cap Driver. Go and check out his YouTube video if you haven't already. And he said that our last episode was very funny. And then I'm thinking, what did we actually say in our last episode?
I don't remember that.
Apparently,
funny, or funny not?
Well, apparently people do laugh at us, so apparently we do come across funny sometimes. So even though we think we're very dry, apparently we are sometimes humorous, Steve.
Okay. I'll take that.
Patreon. I'm going to plug Patreon. Actually, I'm not going to call it Patreon. I'm going to call it PorscheCooled Exclusive Membership. This is like a Spike's Car Radio ad, isn't it? I feel like I'm doing a Matt Farah or a Spike's Car Radio where they do 20 minutes of ads before the video starts. It's not an ad. It's just supporting the podcast. I didn't mention it last week. I completely forgot. I don't know why. What was wrong with me? PorscheCooled Podcast, PorscheCooled Exclusive on Patreon. You just go to patreon.com/PorscheCooled /PorscheCooled. Yeah, /PorscheCooled. It just helps us keep talking. It helps us to buy equipment. I've got a new mic stand, which Steve can probably see, which I bought. Patreon money at the moment. Patreon memberships at the moment aren't really paying for anything because we've only got 14 or something people. But it helps. It's just going to sit there and eventually it will pay for a microphone. It will pay for something. So that's that. PorscheCooled Exclusive. If you want to help support the podcast, just go to Patreon and become a member. The other thing, Steve, I didn't mention. Also on Patreon, we have a new member, which I didn't mention last week. I completely forgot, is Mark. I'm not sure where Mark comes from before. Hi, Mark. Mark has left us an Apple review before as well. He did mention that he mentioned us and had left us an Apple review, and I had done a shout out to him for that. Getting on to Apple reviews, Steve, still plugging this. Apple Podcast reviews, I just want to say thank you because we are now up to 47 reviews. And these reviews on Apple Podcasts, like I said, they help us get into the charts. They help our podcast show up more on the search results so other people can discover us because it's pretty hard to find a podcast. Sometimes they're really deep unless I guess if you search for Porsche, Steve, you will get it pretty much straight away. But otherwise, even when I'm looking for a podcast, sometimes it's like there's just so many things that come up that I'm not even really interested in. I'm not sure where they're getting their algorithm from. So if you leave a review for us or a rating, you just have to do the star thing. A review, you just have to spend a couple of minutes to write something. We're up to 47 ratings and reviews at the moment. And that's worldwide because I see the stats for the worldwide things. So different countries, you won't see all the reviews. You only see the review when you go to iTunes for your own country. But we have 47. Steve, we only need 3 more for 50. It'd be good to hit 50 before the end of the year, 50 reviews and ratings. I think that's pretty good for a little podcast like ours.
Do you want me to start typing?
Yeah. Why don't you get Cindy to do one and someone else to do one? Get your brother-in-laws and get everyone to do one.
Okay.
But we had three new reviews, really nice reviews. I won't read them all out, I don't think, but we had one from JP993 from Australia, 5-star review. I'll just read the title, A Wealth of Knowledge from Real Porsche Enthusiasts. So that was really nice. Then we had another one, 4 stars. Sorry, not 4 stars, 5 stars. What am I talking about? 5 stars. PorscheCooled, a great podcast about people and their Porsche experiences. That was from PJM hyphen 911. That was from New Zealand. I think that's Paul, actually. So thanks, Paul. Paul, who was on the previous owner's stories. If you haven't listened to that owner's story, it's a really good one. He's got the G50. He's got the 997 GTS in manual, which I'm very envious of. And he's also got the 328 Ferrari, which, thank you, Paul, 328 GTS. Thank you, Paul, for putting that into my mind and not being able to not stop looking at 328 GTSs now online. So now I'm looking at 912s and 328 GTSs, so my mind's even more messed up than it was before.
Mm-hmm.
and then from Miff. Miff is a Patreon member, and he left us a really good review, Porsche Cars and Coffee Chat. Really nice review, so thank you, Miff, for that. I really appreciate it. And he knows a lot of the people you're talking about, the suppliers in Sydney. I'm pretty sure that Miff uses Autohouse. I think he knows John, is it John from Pro Stitch?
Yeah, I think I've seen
Miffs, if you look at
in Autohouse before.
Yeah, if you look at, I think, Miff, I'm not going to let people know your last name, but if you look at Miff's Instagram, Steve, you would have seen it. I think I sent you the link. I think he's got an orange.
The orange car?
Yeah, the orange car, which you've seen at Autohouse, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice car, Miff. Very nice car.
It's cool.
Very cool. So that's it. That's it for the plugging. No more plugging, but that just helps support us and helps us keep talking. Because people keep saying, don't stop doing the podcast. Don't stop chatting with Steve about Porsches. Don't stop doing the owner stories. This is episode 60, Steve. I still can't believe we're at episode 60. You know what I mean? Like last night, I edited next week's Cars and Coffee. Next week's owner stories, PorscheCooled owner stories, and that was episode 61. So we're getting up there.
You're on fire, mate.
We're on fire. We're on fire. What's been happening, Steve? Give me something. Tell me what's happening. Tell me about that. The Porsche at South Sydney.
Yeah, I went to pick up some parts, actually from my uncle, not for me, from Porsche South Sydney for his new 991.2. And whilst I was waiting at the counter in the service department, I peeked through the window, and up on the hoist was a white 997 GT3 RS 4.0. So I was looking at it and I was like, wow, that's cool. And then I sort of started talking to the guys and sort of saying, is that one for real? And they sort of said, yeah, everyone keeps saying that it is.
Yeah.
So it was white with white wheels, apparently brought in from South Africa. I mean, I'd be curious to know how many actually came to Australia in terms of the allocation, but that would be extremely rare.
Yeah. I guess, I'd hate to think, and I said this to you in the message, I'd hate to think the price of the landing cost for that car if he's brought it from South Africa. You know what I mean? Like even on a £50,000 or 50,000 US 912, once you start adding freight is not that much, but it's the duty.
The luxury tax, is it? And the duty.
Yeah, so they must have lived in South Africa if they brought it in, because you can't bring a car in otherwise unless you've lived there, that sort of car of that age.
Right.
So you pay the duty, 10% duty, and then you pay the GST, and then you pay the luxury car tax on top of that. So over 66,000 Aussie, you pay, how much the GT3 RS, they value it in whatever they bought it for. I think in South Africa, that's how they base it. I don't think they base it on Australian values. They base it on the overseas value.
Terrible stereotypes, but I think if you can afford a 4.0, whether you were the original owner, or you could sort of get your hands on it afterwards. I guess you can afford that kind of thing.
Yeah, true. It's interesting actually because I had a conversation, and I'm not going to mention his last name. I don't think. No, I talked to a guy called Peter, and Peter lives in South Africa as well, and he has a GT2 RS Vizak. He has a GT3 RS, all the new ones, GT3 RS. I think I might have sent you this. He has them in blue. They're both in shades of blue, PTS blue, I think they are. And I'm pretty sure he bought a Speedster because he sent it to me ages ago. I haven't spoken to him in a long time, and he sent me a message via Facebook the other day, or a week ago or so.
He's the mad watch guy too, right?
He's not that mad of a watch guy.
Okay.
He has spoken about watches, but he has these two GT cars, and he's about to relocate. I don't know if Peter listens to this podcast, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but it's just because of you talking about the 997 4.0 GT3, right? In that he was trying to decide, like he said, do you think I should take my GT cars to Switzerland? Should I take them there? And I think they're right-hand drive. I think South Africa's right-hand drive.
They are, aren't they?
Yeah, you would have noticed in that car in South Sydney, right? They're right-hand drive. So he said, do I want two GT cars left-hand drive in Switzerland or left-hand drive cars? And I said, you should take at least one, I said you should take at least one. I wouldn't just get rid of them. I mean, I'd probably want to take both. But it's a tricky decision, isn't it? When you are relocating and you have cars of that pedigree and that, rarity and cost, do you take them with you, or do you just buy a new one when you relocate?
Yeah, I guess so. So, also in this rarefied sort of clientele world, so obviously you've got to be like a sort of a VIP customer of Porsche to kind of get yourself, like a new Speedster and a GT2 RS and all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
So say I'm that guy and I bought quite a few in Australia and then I moved to Switzerland. Does your VIP status go with you, or is it more with is it with the dealer, or is it with the brand?
Ooh, good question. I don't know. I would think it's with the brand, but is it with the country? See, it's tricky, isn't it? I don't think it's just with the dealer, but maybe is it country? Is it you're a special customer for the country?
Yeah.
You'd think it'd be in Porsche's main database, though. If you are given the opportunity to own a GT2 RS, a GT3 RS, all the new models, 2019 model or whatever it is, and then, you get the opportunity to buy a Speedster and you buy the Speedster, you have to be up there on Porsche's list, right? It must be a world list.
Yeah, and they can't be, they're a pretty smart organisation. Surely they would kind of know who their VIP customers are. They're obviously in the thousands, but that's not that hard to keep a track of.
I'm going to go off the topic here because I just want to know if you know about this. I was watching this video last night on YouTube, and it was a Ferrari video, 328 GTS video, that someone on Ferrari chat had linked. And it's in a new video on this woman going through this 328 GTS. I think it's for sale. And then she came out with this red book. And I don't know if Porsche have this. They came out with this red book and they call it something, you know what I mean? And basically the Ferrari go through your car. If you wanted to do it if you want to do it for an older Ferrari, you can. They go through the car, you get the metal plate on the red folder, has all the pictures. They go through it and say it's all authentic, the engine, the paint. But basically, it's a whole thing. So when you go to sell the car, or for your collector status, you have this red book which is called something, and I should remember the name. I'm sorry to the people who always say I never remember the names, but the woman said, the woman who was doing the video said, it's probably not worthwhile to do it on a 328 GTS due to the value, because it costs $15,000 to $20,000
to get Ferrari to verify your car.
Yeah, it's like Ferrari verified, and they have a special name for it. But I think it's pretty cool, right? That you have this, it's a big red book and it's got photos of the car and the engine numbers, and it has the history. I think it might even have old owners that they have on record, and it's basically a full history of your car that if you went to sell it, I guess for insurance purposes. Does Porsche do any? I wonder if Porsche does anything like that.
No, I've never heard of it. I wouldn't know. You'd have to talk to somebody rich. And
you don't have to be. But it doesn't have to be rich though, because you can do it
what you're saying. I'm joking.
for the GT3.
I know you can get a letter you can sort of ask them to kind of verify your VIN and engine number, and you get them to sort of, I think you can pay for sort of them sending you a letter to kind of just verify that your car's, like...
yeah, which people are complaining about because apparently Porsche's made it more difficult to get that letter, and all these listings on Bring a Trailer say that now that they won't give the certificate of authenticity or something, they only give something else now. So Porsche apparently made it even more difficult to get that. But like I said,
that though, because it'd be easy to forge, wouldn't it? If that's just sort of like something on letterhead with, Black Helvetica type in 10 point.
Yeah, true. But Tim, isn't it? Tim at Autohouse. When I got my car, he contacted the guy at Porsche South Sydney to get into the database and gave me a printout of all the details of my car, which was nice of him. Like he got that printout for me. So that was, I like that. It's in my folder that I keep all my receipts in. Like, I have the folder with all the receipts and whatever. And now I'm going to actually keep photos like what you said last week. I think that's a really good idea, where you said that if there's any damage to your car or anything to your car and has to get fixed or whatever, to keep the photos as a record for when you sell it so you can show the next owner. Like if you had to respray your bumper. As Steve knows, I'm going to mention this. As Steve knows, someone damaged my car in where it's parked in Sydney. They backed into it. Steve was nice enough to go over and take photos of it for me and sort it out. It's...
Back into it some more?
Yeah, look, it's not... to a layman looking at it, they'll go, what are you worrying about? There's hardly any damage. But, hardly any damage is, when you split a bumper, like Steve said, it's still a couple of grand just to get it repaired, no doubt. So it's still not cheap, and it still just shows you that people have no respect for other people's property. And if they did know they hit it, you'd think they'd at least leave a letter, especially when it's in the building where I live in Sydney.
Yep.
Anyway, that's that.
I agree. Very unlucky, mate, but fixable at least.
Yeah, fixable. Everything's fixable, but is it going to be like it was before? That's what I always worry about.
I think I sort of said it to you in a text as well, like not that you want, like zero damage is pretty much what you want, but if anything is going to be damaged, if it's the front or the back bumper, I reckon that's the area that you'd most want to kind of have damage to, because I think people expect that a front or rear bumper will kind of be resprayed, if you know what I mean, like even just from normal road use. I wouldn't blink if somebody sort of said to me, this car that you want to buy is pristine, except I've had the bumper resprayed. It's like, yeah, fine, as long as it's a good job, then no problem.
But my front bumper's actually got PPF on it, you know that, right? So I don't know what it's done to the PPF. But I guess that could have happened. The damage to that could have happened parked in a street in Sydney. Every time I park my car, when I go to the supermarket, I don't go to underground car parks, I park in the street, and I go to Redfern in Sydney and I park there or wherever it is, Steve. So,
Isn't that worse?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm always very careful. And, the Audi I used to get, the Audi, because I used to park in the street where I used to work, and it was in a busy area in Sydney. So you got much damage on the bumpers from people parking into me.
My 913 was like that. I got sick of that.
Yeah, I know. So, I guess that damage could have just happened parked in the street. You know what I mean? It's not like a...
Yeah.
I guess I have been lucky in some respects, and now I'm not lucky. So, but that's how things are going at the moment. I feel very unlucky at the moment, so that's probably why. Type 7 book, I bought it. I actually bought it off Amazon, I bought it because Instagram just kills me. It just keeps showing me these things all the time. I keep seeing the book on Instagram.
No, it's terrible.
It looks good. I should just buy it. It's only cheap. So, I hope Tasha, my wife, doesn't listen to this, but I bought it off Amazon and it was cheap. And then it was like taking too long. It was going to be delivered 1st of December, then 10th of December, and then 15th, 12th of January. And I thought, forget about this. And then I went to Alpha Spot and I bought it from Alpha Spot and paid significantly more for it, but which I didn't realize at the time. I actually bought it and then went, hang on, did I just pay 15, 20 pounds more for that? Which I did. So because of the shipping and everything. But it looks like a really good book, so I bought it. I had a look at the Luftgekühlt book. That's a really good one, but man, it costs a lot to ship it. Yeah, it costs international shipping, but it's a limited run, that first one. They do it as the first one's a limited run, it said.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Should get it, mate.
I've got no work at the moment, so don't be flogging your wares at me.
But it's Christmas.
So,
that's why no one's got work. It's Christmas.
Yeah, no.
I don't know. All our projects are falling apart anyway. Owner stories. If you haven't listened, owner stories last Tuesday was a good one in the fact that I've never had anyone, an owner on the podcast on the Owner Stories podcast that's owned a 356. So I thought it was really interesting chatting with Mark. Mark is from Perth in Western Australia, and he has a beautiful 1960 356B T5 coupe. So I actually learned a bit about 356s, Steve, which I didn't know about. I'm not really looking into them that much. I know they share the engine from the 356 is what was used in the 912. But that's about all I know. Did you like the look of Mark's 356?
I didn't. I listened to it today because we are talking on a Wednesday, and it comes into my feed sort of like mid-Wednesday morning. Yep. But I didn't have a chance to go and look at his YouTube channel and all that sort of stuff. I must admit, I never really had a particularly strong interest in 356s. I'd be curious to kind of go and have a look, but
I thought Mark
had a lot to say. He's a bit of a live wire, isn't he?
I thought Mark was. I thought it was funny though how he said in Perth he's like one of the youngest 356 owners, because most people that own
and he's our age.
Most people who own 356s are really old.
Right.
And interesting, a lot of women like 356s, and I have actually noticed that on Instagram. I know that
it's the Luke Perry effect, right?
G.I. Jen, is it? The girl from Peckler in the US. She's got a green one, a very nice green one. But I guess Rod Emery is kind of like, he does the Outlaw 356s. I mean, he's a kind of really cool, that outlaw style. I mean, they're obviously appealing to younger people.
Yeah.
It's weird how certain cars appeal to certain ages, though, isn't it? It really is. But the 912, shares that engine. It's the same engine block or whatever as the 356. I think it's a little bit more power. I think it's a detuned, I think I've said this before, Super Carrera 356 SC engine that's slightly detuned, which is a 90 horsepower, and I think it was slightly detuned for the 912. I could be wrong. But I think it is. But Mark actually told me something interesting via, I think it was via Instagram or email, that I should look at the 912Es. And the 912Es were produced, I think, in 1976. And they were brought out for the same reason as the 912 was brought out in 65, which they look, obviously they're a 70s Carrera, but that engine I am getting to a point here. The engine in the 912E is apparently the 914 engine. I didn't actually realize that. It's actually the 4-cylinder 914 engine, which Mark was telling me is... via Instagram or email, he was telling me that it was more reliable. It's actually a more reliable engine than the 912 engine.
Yeah, right.
Sorry, Ajmal, if you're listening. All right. What else? Oh, this other thing, Steve, is pretty interesting. You can hire a 912 in the UK. You can actually hire it. I got this sent to me. I'll mention Ajmal again. Flat Cup driver, Ajmal sent it to me. Yeah. You can hire a 912 in the UK. It's a 1969. It's got a picture of it. I'll send you the link later. It's a 1969 912, so it's a long wheelbase, the model that I like. Gold and green color. It's been all restored and everything. You have to get it, if you're just getting it as a self-drive, you have to get it for one day. Ajmal was suggesting that I get it and test it out and take it for a drive. £350 for a day. Is that cheap?
No, it's not cheap. But,
so what's that, 700 Australian dollars a day?
It's possibly cheaper than going and buying a car that you realise that might not be for you afterwards, particularly if you're buying sight unseen. Yeah,
I guess if you could toss it up, you could say, okay, I won't get a PPI in the 912 bar. I'll just get this car and drive it and see what it's like.
Yeah, I'd go and do it. You should go and do it.
Anyway, it's winter here, so I wouldn't do it now. But, I mean, maybe when it gets warmer, if I'm here and in summer or nearing summer, maybe it's a good idea to get one and just take it for a drive. I don't know what the insurance... I'm guessing the excess for the insurance would be not cheap. But it's a site, if anyone's interested, it's a site called... I've got it here because I wanted just to mention what it's called, and now I can't find it. Porsche Booker Classic. If you're in the UK, it's called Booker Classic. Or go and have a look at it if you're not in the UK, because it's a World Wide Web. You can look at it anywhere. bookerclassic.co.uk. And it's they've got other classics as well, but they have this 912, so it could be interesting. It was interesting to see it.
Can't have home.
Did you Where did you go this week? Did you drive? Did you go for a drive with your mate again? Double GT3, white GT3, twisty
I
run?
did not. I did not. The weather's actually been a bit sort of rainy the last few days, so it's not GT3. It's not GT3 on Cup 2 or Trofeo R weather. I tend not to actually take my car out if it's wet because I'm a big scaredy cat. But last week, towards the end of the week, it was really nice, and I went for a drive down through the national park down south. Went and had a coffee with my mate who lives in Austinmere, so the perfect destination.
Where's Austinmere now? Is that on the other side of the Royal National Park?
Yeah, that's just past that Seacliff Bridge. There's
right.
Then what is it? Past that Scarborough Hotel pub. It's like we've been there before. We've driven through it.
That's a nice drive.
So
that's a nice drive.
And I did this maybe a month and a bit ago, but I got held up, so I didn't really enjoy the drive. I don't think I mentioned it. But this time I had the road all to myself, and I really enjoyed it. It's good. I had a really good blast. It did make me realise that my car is so loud now with the modified exhaust that I tend not to rev it out. I tend not to rev past,
really,
I don't know, 5.5, 6. Whereas in the past I used to kind of get up there a little bit more because it's so loud that I don't need to. It's funny because the reason why I decided to kind of go again on the exhaust was that I felt like I needed to kind of rev it to kind of get more noise. So I think I've kind of gone the full opposite.
How do you know? How do you know if it's too loud? How do you know that they won't, like, do the cops, I don't know, do the police ever check that? I mean...
Yeah, you can get...
but how do they check it? How do you know if your car
detected.
is too loud?
Well, I'm assuming they just kind of listen, they can hear with their own ears, like if the thing's bloody loud, and then I'm sure that they would get a noise meter out, a decibel meter, right?
Right,
and then
there'll
be rules in terms of a certain distance. It's like track days. A certain distance from the rear, a certain number of revs, and if you exceed that, then you're a nuisance to society and you have to go and get your car looked at by an engineer.
But how did the car feel in general? Good?
Car's great. It's really good.
So how did the new knob feel? Did you have the knob fitted then, the new black one?
No, this is after. So what Michael's referring to is that I bought a...
I sent someone his link, actually. Someone asked me about who the guy was, and I sent it to him.
Yeah, so it's a wooden gear knob on a metal shift rod from Joel Konasenko in Austria. His thing is 911 Outlaw.
You should go and check it out.
He sells this stuff through Carbone. Yeah, he's a cool guy. Like he's actually a photographer, cinematographer. So because I tend to know that type of person, I think we're just sort of in tune. So he knew that I bought my first one from Carbone, and I think he followed me on Instagram after maybe finding it on your thing, because I'm obviously never on Instagram.
Yeah, he liked something of mine, actually. I saw it yesterday. I don't know whether... I think he might follow me as well. I think it was on 997.1. I think it was 997.1.
Anyway, I stupidly... went and because the first one I bought was a stainless sort of finished rod with the combination of antique oak and normal oak. So it's sort of like the stripy type thing that's sort of a tribute to 917s and Carrera GT.
Classic one.
Also kind of, knob. But I think I was just talking to him. I don't know why, I just was. And then all of a sudden I'm getting a non-combination one, just a darker, it's smoked oak, so it's just one colour. But the thing that I sort of really kind of wanted was a matte black shift rod rather than the stainless one.
Yeah.
So...
No, you sent me the images and I reckon... it's weird. I like the plain knob, the new wood shifter knob better last time when you showed it to me on the silver, when it's on the silver rod. But now you put the black rod on, I kind of like the one, the oak and oak one, the spiral one. I think it actually...
Yeah.
I don't know. There's something about it when it's on the black. It just changes it, and it looks really cool. But they both look good.
Yeah, I like
they both look good.
It's really good quality stuff, really nice. He's good to kind of deal with, blah, blah, blah. It did take me a while to kind of get it, but I know Joel was busy, so that's completely understandable, plus COVID.
I saw the picture
for mine,
on
I think
Carbone.
also, yeah, I think partly for me was because I just sort of felt like my interior was getting pretty Porsche tragic, I think was sort of called it quite a few times. It's just getting a bit full on with the Pepita, the 911R inserts and bits of red and deviated stitching and bits of leather plus Alcantara and all that sort of stuff. So when you throw it all in, it kind of gets a bit overwhelming. The black kind of shift rod calmed it down, and the idea of just the one plain wood was to kind of calm it all down again. But I like them both, and it's really easy to kind of swap out. So
yeah, no, I think it looks good. Due to us talking about it, I have actually had a few people ask me about it. I think the first couple of people I just sent to Carbone, and then the last person that asked me, and I can't remember who it was, sorry if you're listening, I sent them to Joel's website because they were talking about the black rod, I think. They wanted to know about the black rod.
Yeah, he's only just made that available. I think the first, because see, like if I knew that there was a black rod available in the first one, that's what I would have. I was actually after, but I didn't. There was no option for it.
I was looking.
He's got a few different ones now.
And then there's the other guy that makes for. I can't remember the company he makes for. What's that other guy in the US that I sent you the link for? The guy that makes.
Is that Dave Mason?
Dave Mason.
It's UK.
Is he in the UK or US? US.
Oh,
The real Dave Mason, have a look at his Instagram, The Real Dave Mason. I noticed he had a post, I follow him, and I asked him about 997 shifters if he was going to do them ages ago. And now he said he's going to, because of so many people asking him, he's going to work on doing a 997 shifter. I think in the post he made out like it's not so easy to do it. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think that's...
I'd be really curious as to the kind of craftsmanship of it. I mean, when we first kind of got onto this and we were just sort of fooling around and looking at all this stuff, because I noticed there's also like a guy based in Mexico when you read Renlist.
Yes, I've seen him.
He's considerably cheaper, but to be honest, the reason why I went with Joel's product is because the wooden knob bit is good, but actually the simplicity of the shift rod was the thing that tipped me over. Most of the other ones look a little bit too kind of thick and sort of looks out of balance in terms of how that kind of all comes together. So Joel's sort of thing is kind of an integrated bit. Like they're two separate pieces that obviously screw together, but
it's such an easy install, right? When you got the silver one, it's just an easy swap over. It didn't take any time at all.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yep.
Okay. What else? Where are we, Steve? Should we get on to... Oh, what about we talk about the basic... Before we won't talk about suspension a little bit. We're going to talk about suspension today because we always get a lot of questions about suspension. But before that, we both saw it. We've both spoken about it. What do you think of the new GT3 Cup car?
It's cool. Very clever. I mean... I think that, and they do it every year, which is the Cup car comes out first because the Cup car comes out first, but it's obviously a precursor to the kind of GT3. So
it gives you a good indication of what the GT3 is going to look like, right?
Yeah. So like the bits that I noticed was sort of like that very distinctive kind of central air vent, which is sort of blacked out, and then the rest of it's kind of body coloured. It's kind of got those two new sort of nostrils to vent the air out through the bonnet, which used to come out of the front bumper, but they said because it's gotten bigger that they've relocated that.
Yeah, the livery is really nice though. The color of it, the way they've done it, it looks pretty special. I mean, it's cool. It's a great image. The one that's been going around, it's a great image.
It's got little pictures of circuits. I'm assuming that's all the kind of circuits around the world and stuff like that. And interesting how they kind of picked blue. I don't know. It makes me kind of laugh because I think like all these sort of luxury goods type thing, like, blue Rolexes are the thing at the moment.
Or blue any watch, AP. Anything blue you can't get. It just sells out. You know what I mean? Even if it's Tiffany blue, like that new Rolex Oyster Perpetual 41, apparently that's just like, forget about trying to get one of those.
Yeah, right.
Not that I would want one because it's awful. I'm sorry, people who like it. It's absolutely awful, that color.
Yeah, I don't know how it's funny, like my client sort of laughs because every time Pantone release their kind of color of the year,
Yeah.
my client always sends me a thing kind of going, oh, the color of the year is salmon. Will you be kind of doing stuff and delivering salmon to me? And it's like, I can if I want, but God knows how somebody kind of arrives at, the color of the year.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. I really don't. So the Cup car came out. What else did they release? The Cup car's obviously going to be faster. So you think the Cup car? What I was going to say is, the Cup car has the Swan neck spoiler. I mean, this is obviously one of the prototypes we keep seeing spy shots of that's going around the Nürburgring.
Yep.
So we haven't really seen the rear spoiler finished on the GT3, right? We've seen it in those two spy videos.
In the Chris Harris video.
But did we see it properly? Is that definitely it?
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does it...
Remember he pulled back the thing and then he sort of said, everybody thinks that it's ugly, but have a look at this.
Oh, okay.
And it wasn't clad. Like I'm sure people kind of paused it and took stills of that, but the uprights weren't as clunky as they were like on the camouflage mule car.
But how does it differ to the Cup car's wing?
Looks pretty similar, I think.
It's almost the same?
A cup car wing would be much bigger and wider in terms of the actual blade, the spoiler part.
Yeah, the Cup car wing is similar to the GT3 RS wing, right? That'll be similar to the RS wing.
Yeah.
Closer to the RS than the standard GT3. I mean, it'd be pretty cool.
The standard GT3, like Andreas Preuninger sort of said it quite a bit, which is it's got lots more motorsport cues than like in the past. Like normally the RS is the one that sort of carried over a lot of the sort of track things, but the standard GT3 is kind of taking more and more of those bits on.
I wonder if you went into Porsche South Sydney today or Porsche London and you said, okay, I want to order the new GT3. Can you guarantee me a spot? I wonder if you would get a spot now. You probably wouldn't, right? It's probably already been, people have probably already taken up allocation.
They would have been putting waters down ages ago, wouldn't they?
Yeah, because I was wondering that about the touring as well. Nick's talking about, he likes the GTS, and Nick here in the UK that's been on the First Owner Stories, a GTS. He sent me one the other day, actually, which appeared in TGE TV's video, which was a paint to sample. Have you seen it? Have you watched that video?
No.
It's a paint to sample peppermint green GTS with the
I
bucket
did
seats.
see it.
Yeah, well, Nick sent me that.
Was that
like
Romans?
Nick sent me that the day before, the same day or the day before. And it's like, it's nicely spec'd, but man, the color. And then they've got the painted inserts in the seat, in the lightweight buckets, the reclining buckets. Yep. And then they've got the green in the seats, and I think there's green detail on the dash somewhere as well. Like I don't know.
It's a 964 color, isn't it? It's pretty full on.
I don't know. I know it's a heritage color, but it just, I don't know. It's just too much. I couldn't live with that color. I think I could live with Viper green over that peppermint green. I think Viper green or the sort of that green I could live with is lizard green or whatever it's called, isn't it? Lizard green?
Yeah, I don't
with that green, but I don't think I could live with peppermint. It just looks but someone spent a lot of money. It's paint to sample color. It's not a standard color.
Yeah, cool on a 964, but I don't know.
Is that where it's from, is it? 964?
Yeah, pretty sure. I think so.
All right. And then they also did those graphics, which are kind of cool graphics. I saw them last night, actually. I must have missed them. The LMDH prototype, the hybrid for Le Mans, right? It's the new hybrid for the new race series. Is that what it is?
So I think they're announcing that they're returning to Le Mans after kind of pulling out. And I read something somewhere where Audi have pulled out of Formula E and they've announced that they're going back to Dakar and Le Mans.
Oh, right.
And
so what's
somebody
happening?
made a comment that Porsche will sort of feel like Le Mans is their turf, not Audi's turf. So they'll probably kind of go back to. It's quite interesting because I think it's Formula E was sort of seen as the sort of championship to kind of show your wares when it comes to electric cars and that's sort of the forefront of that kind of technology. But
yeah.
I don't really follow it, but it sounds like some of the car makers are sort of considering going back to Le Mans, or Audi, and sounds like Porsche are going to go and do it. So it's cool. Le Mans is such a cool race.
Yeah, no, I watch it. I do watch it. I mean, I don't watch the whole thing.
I didn't watch it this year. I watched.
I didn't watch it this year. Yeah, I have watched it when it was on It was streaming free, I think, one year or the year before. Not this year, the year before it was streaming free, and I was watching it.
Oh, was it?
Or one year it was on somewhere in the UK or wherever I was, it was streaming. But it says that LMDH is for Le Mans, Daytona, and Sebring Classics.
Yeah.
So it's actually the 3 races, yeah? And those cars are sub or just over 1,000 kilograms, and they've got 680 horsepower. So that's pretty light and pretty fast. It's only 1,000. It's only 1,000 kilograms. That's like nothing. So that's going to be pretty crazy. And then the other thing I read just on the Porsche news before we talk about suspension, Steve, is, and I heard this in someone's podcast actually. I don't know who it was. I heard it in a podcast, and then the article just apparently appeared about Porsche keeping classics on the road. And this is the sort of thing that we are thinking about, and you do talk about, like with your GT3, for example, like in years to come. How is it going to be in 15 years if you've still got that car? What's it going to be like with the push with electric cars and all this? Going on to electric cars, though, I watched the video on Shimmy 150's thing because he's just bought a Taycan Turbo S. And having a Porsche electric car in the UK, to me, seemed like a real pain in the ass from that video.
Yeah.
It seemed like a struggle for him. If you should go and watch the video, if you haven't watched it, all the listeners as well, it seemed like he just couldn't get somewhere to charge it.
Because it's not like points.
Well, it's not like Tesla. See, Tesla's so easy because the infrastructure is everywhere. You know what I mean? And it's fast. But then with the Porsche thing, like he was getting ones that didn't work. Then it was, and it's expensive. It wasn't super cheap. The cost he was paying for it wasn't super cheap. I always think that, Tesla's free because when we, went to the supercharger with that car, it was free to fill up. But maybe because that was a rental. But, or is it free for some time with Tesla? But with Porsche, he had to pay. And I think it was about £13 when he charged it, and he didn't even really charge it all the way.
Right.
So I just think it's interesting about the electric thing. Anyway, back to the classics. Did you see that article, Steve, about Porsche wants to keep classics on the road? So they're doing this pilot program with Siemens in Siemens Energy, and I think it's financed by the German government, and it's a e-fuel, so that you I'd heard rumblings about it on different podcasts and stuff like that. It makes sense. Like everybody, like people like Matt Farah gets quite vocal about sort of, like where the future of cars is going and stuff like that. I mean, we're all obviously enthusiasts, so we'd love for internal combustion engines to sort of still be a thing in the future. And if they're going to kind of develop a fuel that's that means that a normal engine can sort of stay afloat and we don't have to drive an electric car, that would be great. I'd love to teach my daughters to drive manual car, and hopefully they will enjoy it. Yeah, no, I think it's a really good thing that Porsche's doing this. And I mean, I guess they have to do it because so many people own their cars and their classics and their cars, in another 10 years, 15 years, the amount of their cars that are still going to be on the road, like they're not going to disappear. And they're producing this fuel. I think it said Southern Chile. I'm just looking at my notes now. Yeah, Southern Chile, and it's carbon neutral fuel as well. So it works to Germany's strategy, whatever it was, emission strategy or whatever they call it, hydrogen strategy.
Because a lot of people talk about hydrogen as an alternate fuel as well, but the cost of making it or converting it is quite high. But But I don't know. I don't completely understand what it is, but this e-fuel can be used in combustion engines, plug-in hybrids, and can make the use, which is, I think this is the most important thing, which is really, can make use of existing network of filling stations. So just your normal petrol stations. You know what I mean? So it protects the climate. It gives you a fuel for your high-performance engines. It's been developed by Porsche. So if you own a Porsche, I guess it's a good thing, because it's being developed by Porsche, you know what I mean? So at least they're thinking about it. At least they're not just going to say, well, electric's going to be the thing and forget about all you guys that have bought our cars for the last, how many years. That's it. Yeah.
Scrap them. So at least they're thinking of the future.
As a group, it makes sense too, because Volkswagen have pretty much kind of gone the full electric route, but then, Volkswagen Group consists of so many different other brands. So if anybody's going to try to sort of keep an internal combustion engine alive, I guess Porsche's probably one of the smarter ones to have a crack at it. You'd take a guess that Ferrari would sort of be in there at some point in time as well, right?
You think so? Yeah, for sure. for sure.
These sorts of brands can't. Well, I guess they can, but it would be such a shame if like everybody just sort of went, no, stuff it. Like we all have to kind of go electric.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought it was interesting to see that.
Yeah, very interesting.
What else, mate? What else? We're going to talk about suspension. We're going to talk about suspension just briefly, and this is not an in-depth, how to do your suspension on your Porsche or whatever. I get questions. I get questions from people quite regularly recently, which I told you is that people are asking me what coilovers I have on my car. And I have spoken about this before, but maybe the people who have asked me haven't caught up with that episode yet. My car does not. My 997 is lowered, as Steve knows. My car is lowered. I'll just talk about my 997 first, Steve. My 997 is lowered. I believe the springs. I think the springs are Tech-Art lowering springs. I'm not 100% sure, but I think they are.
They'd be, even if they were branded Tech-Art, they're going to either be made by H&R or iBark, but they might be to Tech-Art specification kind of thing.
Right. And I'm probably guessing that because, like I said before, my car came on Tech-Art 20-inch wheels, so I'm assuming the lowering springs were Tech-Art. So it's probably a big assumption. When Autohouse looked at my shocks and everything when they were doing the PPI, they didn't actually, he couldn't see the branding on the lowering springs. So I am actually making a big assumption just because my wheels were Tech-Art. I think they might have been Tech-Art. But as Steve said, they're either eBack or what was the other one? H&R.
Yep.
So mine has the stock 997 shocks. It has the lowering springs. My car is probably, and I don't know what this is in inches, sorry guys, but it's probably about 5 mil, Steve. I think it's 5 mil too low. I think it just needs to be just fractionally higher.
So it's, I think, like just massive generalizations, like sort of when you drop your car, it's generally about 30 mil, isn't it? Like when you kind of get a set of springs.
Yeah.
Your car looks great. Like I like the stance of it. And I remember when we test drove it, and I think I've driven your car like maybe 2 or 3 times in the time that you've owned it. I don't reckon I don't think it's spoiled the ride in your car. Not that I'm super familiar with the standard kind of Carrera, but your car rides well, handles well.
No, I think this is what I always tell people when they ask me that question. It rides really well. Do you know what I mean? People say you should get coilovers, or people say you should get the set. It rides really well. There's no problem with my suspension. There's no problem with my shocks, except one shock at the front, which I've mentioned before. The bump stop is torn, and just to replace that bump stop is expensive because of the labor involved. Yep. Autohouse Hamilton told me not to worry about it so much. Yep. I am still thinking in my head, which I have discussed briefly before as well, that I am still thinking about Bilstein. I know that First Flat 6, Greg, who's been on the owner stories, he did his 996 with Ollins. I think are they road and track? Is that what you said, Steve? I think that's what the main one is.
I think it might be, yeah. Ollins are sort of right up there.
I can't remember which ones they were you did, Greg. I'm sure you're listening to this, but you were really happy with them. Greg was really happy with doing the Ollins. So Ollins is a recommendation. I know people do K&Ws on 996s. It's all a personal preference. I don't know which one's better. I'm not an expert on thing. The one I was looking at, though, and only because I read so many posts on Renlist 997 forums, was the Bilstein B12 kit. And that's what I'm thinking in my head that I would still like to do. B12 is B8 shocks, struts with the eBack Pro Kit springs. People have had them installed.
I've had something similar. I've had something similar on... I have that on. I think a Golf VR6.
Okay.
The original one. Bilsteins are great. Like and my uncle is a mad sort of Bilstein sort of fan as well. So I put them on my MX-5 as well. Yeah, Bilsteins make a massive difference. So you won't go wrong, and there's nothing wrong. Like it's a good sort of thing for a street car that doesn't go to the track and all that sort of thing. Like it's not going to be nearly as expensive as KW coilovers or Ollins and stuff like that.
Yeah, true.
So it's a good value. It's a good value solution from my understanding of it and experience of it.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking. I mean, instead of changing the bump stop out, if I'm going to change, bump stop's probably still cheaper to do. But, I think, if I want to tighten up the car, I would possibly do the B12 kit. I think some people mix and match, though, with this thing. I mean, the B12 kit is just, like I said, It's the B8 shock struts with the eBack Pro kit springs. I think some people just buy them separately because they want because the eBack springs, you can have a Pro kit for more comfort ride, or you can have the Sport line, which is a stiffer response.
Yep.
So there's two different ones in the eBack springs. I'm not but I think some people
springs you want on it. Yep.
Yeah, this is the
you can
thing.
put the standard springs on it if you wanted.
Yeah, but I think some people don't actually get the B12 kit because they want to have, one shock, and then they want to get the difference, the more stiffer response springs. So they sort of they just buy them separately.
Yep.
You don't have to buy them as a kit. It's just Bilstein puts this together as a kit, and a lot of people on Renlist have actually used it. And then the other thing, which I think, and I know that James at Auto Amateur just did this on his 996 project car on YouTube, is to check is the engine mounts. Now, have you ever changed the engine mounts in any of your cars?
I have, but I've never upgraded them. So in the 993, I can't remember whether the GT3's been done. Actually, I think they may have been as well. In both instances, they needed to be replaced, and granted, Autohouse, I did sort of say to him, so what do you reckon? Like, I think at one point, I think it was Wevos were the thing for 993s, potentially. There's another brand of aftermarket one. And there's obviously varying kind of degrees of like how hard the material is. And Grant suggested to me that it wasn't for me because of the way I drive and my usage on the street and all that sort of stuff. He said probably introduced too much kind of vibration and all that sort of stuff. So I've never actually experienced it and done the upgrade myself. If my engine mounts have gone, I've actually just gone with the standard ones.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about doing that I don't know if I've said this before, maybe I have. I was thinking about doing that when I come back to Sydney, is just get them to check the engine mounts, because I don't think I've ever I know it didn't show up on the PPI, and I know people say they don't last. If you're on your original engine mounts from a car that's 13 years old, they probably do need changing. They probably are getting sag, and you probably are getting not as better response in your gear changing, and the vibration could be slightly more. I don't find any problem with my car. Maybe they're okay. Maybe they've been changed before. I don't know. But I would get
so familiar with it. I think you just need somebody else to kind of jump in your car and see that. That's often what happens to me when I kind of go and take my car to Autohouse sort of thing. I'm so used to it that I wouldn't sometimes pick up, but it's just part of normal wear and tear kind of thing.
Yeah, and I've read reports when people say they've upgraded the suspension and then they've also changed their engine mounts. And I would do stock mounts as well, like you. I would just do the normal, whatever came up with it. I wouldn't upgrade it to anything harder or whatever. Because there was something that someone had changed their engine mounts and the vibration was way too much. They said they had to change it back to stock. I don't know where I heard that. Yep. But I mean, like you said, you don't know until you drive it, right? You might get the engine mounts done and then it could just make a huge difference to the way the car feels. Huge difference.
Yeah.
Because it's such an important part, right?
I've been tempted. I have been tempted, but because I'm always, I guess I just sort of read too much shit on Renlist or whatever else. So then I'll kind of go, hey, great, like I've read about this, and this, and he'll kind of say to me, oh, okay, well, I understand what you're saying, but in my opinion, blah. I quite like the fact that he sort of does that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I kind of go with what he says, and sometimes I kind of go, I wouldn't mind trying it. For example, like my exhaust.
The exhaust,
I think he sort of said to me...
And now it's too loud.
I think he sort of said to me, like, that exhaust is going to be way too loud. You're insane.
So he was right.
No. I'm still happy with it.
You're a hoon, mate. Yeah. You're a hoon.
Yeah. An old hoon.
So if you have a GT3, right? I think we're not going to get time to go through all the suspension, but let's just go briefly through. Let's go current to backwards. The GT3 suspension on the GT3. Would you, at the moment, you're running stock GT3 suspension that came with the car?
Yep, and I believe the Bilstein coilovers, because it's all fully adjustable. I'm pretty sure that they're Bilsteins as well. I have no reason to kind of necessarily think of anything else. I guess my car's done 80,000 K, so...
Wow, that's a lot.
Probably, at some point in time, they're going to need to be either refurbished, regassed and renewed, or I guess I could kind of change them out. But then I guess, you're going to be tempted by what you just sort of talked about before, which is KW, or if you're going to go full on, like go Ohlins, but I reckon they're big bucks.
Yeah, but with the GT3, because they are probably Bilsteins, they are really already a high spec, coilover. There's not really, there's not really any need. With my car, because it's base Carrera, it's different. You know what I mean? I think you just go up a little bit. But with yours,
The only
I
thing
don't know
about
if you need to, do you? You don't need to go any further, really.
I think maybe the difference might also be just like with anything, like very similar to tires, shock absorber technology will have moved leaps and bounds in 13 years.
Yeah.
So I reckon like a current generation coilover is going to be far better than the 13-year-old one. And I reckon maybe the difference, like I don't hanker for more body control and anything like that because I don't drive hard enough to kind of feel all those things. But I think potentially when you read about like people that do fit KWs and Olins is that one of the benefits is that you get a better ride on the street. And that's probably would be a good thing. Like I don't find my car too stiff, but it wouldn't hurt if it was a little bit sort of more comfortable.
But the coilovers have been good for you because you have actually adjusted your ride height on your GT3 a few times, right?
Yeah, I've on occasion, like I've just gone to Autohouse and sort of said, look, I think it's too low, it's too this, too that. They sometimes pick it up and kind of go, we think the alignment's out. Are you happy for us to kind of have a go and just to sort of make small adjustments? It's like, yeah, cool. So it's good.
So it's an easy process.
Yeah, no complaints. Like put it differently, like I'll quickly whiz through because I know we'll run out of time, but the 964 and the 993 that I had previously, I did swap the stock suspension out on both of those for Bilsteins. The 964 I put Bilstein HDs, I think, which just tightened it all up, made it so much nicer and killed some of the sort of understeery, sort of bouncy feel that car comes with standard.
Yep.
And then the 993, part of my sort of massive thing when people kind of talk about standard 993s not being very good. I reckon a big part of that is because they came on those I think they're Bogue shocks, which I think are really bad. Like
Bogue? I've never heard of it.
They'll probably be German or European as well, but I think from, don't quote me, but I think from memory when you sort of get on Red List and you start reading all the enthusiast type stuff, they're really not the greatest shocks in the world. So the best thing you can do is actually just kind of upgrade them. I wound up putting Bilstein PSS 9s on my 993, and that completely transformed the car.
And they're coilovers, aren't they? They're adjustable.
Yeah, which, and again, like, I guess it's nice to sort of say, hey, I've got adjustable coilovers, blah, 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 but like how many times have I ever adjusted my suspension myself? Like,
but
when
were they adjusted when you owned it? Sorry, when you owned it, did you adjust the height at any time or just when you first set it up and just to get the height right?
Yep, exactly how it works with the GT3 in terms of if I do want a tweak kind of to be made, then I won't do it myself. I'll ask Autohouse to do it. So, keeping in mind I'm completely non-mechanical, but...
What is the ultimate height though? And I don't know this, and this might be a simple question to a lot of people. I mean, when you get this lowering suspension on a 911, when you spec it, isn't it 20 millimeters or 25 millimeters lower, right?
I think it's 20, yeah. I think 20.
So Porsche do 20. So these ones, so people go to 30.
Well, I think, so coilovers now, there's more range in it. Like, because before you kind of went to coilovers, it was a spring that dictated mainly the ride height. Like there's collars on it as well that, like a perch that you kind of screw down to kind of help you kind of figure it out. But I think a coilover gives you more fine adjustment in your ride height.
Okay.
So that's one of the benefits of it. But like, again, to be honest, like say for example with the GT3, I don't know enough about it to kind of start fiddling around with it to kind of make sort of fine adjustments. If I was a track guy and I understood it better and I was talking about weight transfer and all that sort of thing, then yes, for sure. But I'm never going to do that myself. Yeah.
But if you got a 993, you reckon if someone's got a 993 and they're on stock suspension, then they should really try to change it though, because it's crap what's already on it as stock.
Yeah, change it like to pretty much any of the above. Like KWs get really good wraps. I think that's what Manti Racing use, which obviously everybody kind of raves about. So I think even if for example, if I had to kind of change the GT3 shocks out, I would think about KWs. I don't think they're as dear as Oland's, but one of the things for me is that I had the lift kit fitted to the front of my car, so I'm not quite sure how that works, to be perfectly honest.
What brand is that again, the lift kit? Tech-Art.
Tech-Art
lift kit, which is a bit problematic, right? Has been problematic.
Yeah, it wasn't that reliable. It's still a little bit kind of funny, but it's I know how it works, and I'd rather have it than not.
So it works most of the times now?
What happens is you press the button and it'll lift the car up, but it doesn't stay up all the time. So
okay. So can I put that on my standard, if I have a base Carrera, my car say, can I put that lift kit on my car?
You sure can.
With the suspension I have, it doesn't have to be special suspension. They just put the lift kit on.
Yeah, and see, this is where my knowledge runs out. If you look it up, the lift kit obviously is like some sort of hydraulic unit, but I think it might be also like the spring. You change just the spring out, or a helper spring, or something like that.
So does it impact the handling?
It's got like an extra bit to it. No, it was fine.
So people with a GTS, for example, because GTSs run a little bit low. The 991 GTSs are quite low at the front, I think. I think from what I read. So people with, even modern 911s, to get that lift kit is quite a good idea. Is it expensive?
I got mine very early on, so we're talking 5-6 years ago. I can't remember exactly what I paid, but I think it was around 4K Aussie. So it's not cheap. I'll be curious with my mate who just bought, the identical car to me, whether or not he sort of starts to get the shits with, if he has the same experience as me, which is I just sort of found like tackling most driveways in Sydney was pretty difficult.
Yeah, you definitely need it.
That front spoiler is a consumable, but you don't want to be consuming
it's not that cheap, though, is it? It's still not that cheap, that plastic bit that you keep breaking all the time.
About a bit less than $300, I think.
Yeah, no, that's not super cheap. But the 997.1 GT3 didn't come with a lift kit, did it? If you buy a GT3 in 997, it was a 997.2 that came with a lift kit as an option.
And then people complain about
was problematic.
The factory kit.
Yeah. I wonder what that was. What brand that was? Was that who the aftermarket supplier of that was for Porsche?
I don't know, but I do know that this Tech-Art thing, I remember when Autohouse got a hold of it and they were installing it. I don't think they'd done an install. Well, mine was a second with this particular kit. They did sort of say to me that it was much better engineered than the standard factory one.
Oh, that's good. That's a good tip. So,
and I believe
Tech-Art lift kit. I guess it's probably got better over the years as well. They're probably tweaking it as well as they go along.
Yeah, I think when you read the SharkWorks website, I think they say something similar, which is that's the one that they kind of recommend.
But I mean, good if you got a low car, not a cheap option. It's like if you do a lift kit and you do coilovers, you're probably not going to come out with much change than out of 10 grand Australian, probably close to it.
Yeah. And sorry, just to kind of be clear too, I think these days if you're kind of speccing a new suspension, you can just, like if you sort of want a coilover set, I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them kind of go, you can get a version with a lift kit.
Oh, that's right. I think I've seen that actually. You're right. I think I've seen it on Bilstein's site.
And KW do it as well for sure.
Yeah, it's already built in. So that's probably a better idea, isn't it? It's more integrated.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, mate. I think we're out of time. You want to end it for today?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's end it. It's over. Sorry, guys. It's over.
All over. It's over. We're done.
All right. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, mate.
Have a
good one.
Yep, have a good week. It's the week before Christmas. Next week is Christmas. Look at the blue sky in the background in London here. Look at it. It's a very beautiful day. The river, even the Thames looks bluish today. It doesn't look brown, which is nice. All right, mate. Take it easy.
Take care.
All right. Okay, everyone. Thanks for listening to the PorscheCooled Podcast. That's about it. Thanks for listening, and bye for now.